Birds, and welcome back to Ask an Ecologist. My name is Suzanne Simpson, and I'm an ecologist with Bayou Land Conservancy in Houston, Texas. And each week I take your questions and we chat about all things nature and all things outdoors. So today we're going to cover a variety of topics that include banana spiders, heat mapping our fair city, and grapes. And we're going to talk a little bit about plant ID and get a little bit technical with that. So let's dive straight into your questions. The first one comes from Robin Rosencutter, who asked, can banana spiders bite? And if so, are they venomous? So there are a number of different species of spiders that get the nickname banana spiders, but I happen to know that the one that you are referring to is also known as the golden silk orbweaver. Now, these are large spiders. They're almost the size of a tarantula sometimes, that love bottomland hardwoods, and they're known for making these sweeping nests through trails that people will walk on because they're trying to get into the flight path of insects. So sometimes their webs can come for the hike with you. And so a lot of folks have had direct interactions with these spiders and thus wonder if they're venomous or dangerous. A cool thing about the golden silk orb weaver is it gets its name from the fact that it makes webs that can be golden in color, and so it's really obvious to identify them, and it's a very, very pretty web structure that they have. They also exhibit sexual dimorphism, which means that you can tell males and females apart. So females are going to have a really brightly colored abdomen on the bottom side of them. And they're also going to be about 3 times as large as males. So females are really, really big, and the male is, you almost wouldn't notice it if it weren't also on the web with the female. And they have a very interesting love interaction when it comes to mating, in that the male will wait until the female is actively feeding on something else, and then it will sneak up and mate with her and then run away as soon as it's done, because that's really the only time that it's safe for the male to get close to the female. And then after that, the female will lay its egg sac and we have more baby spiders. To answer your main question about whether they bite and whether they're venomous, so all spiders have venom and can bite, but very, very few spiders are actually dangerous to humans. So in the case of the golden silk orb weaver, they have a venom that is dangerous to their prey, but not dangerous to humans. They very, very rarely bite, only whenever you're handling them kind of roughly and something tells me you're not going to be picking one up in the near future. So the most striking thing about this spider is the fact that it is so large and can often be right in your face unexpectedly, but it is harmless to humans. It feasts on different types of insects and mosquitoes to try and keep those populations down. So they benefit our ecology a lot. They're a very, very pretty, very picturesque spider. So just enjoy it in all of its glory. Try not to get one on your backpack to tag along with you, but you don't need to worry about being injured by this spider. So thanks for submitting your question. All right, we have 2 questions this week from John Lane. First one is, do some grapevines not make grapes? I've noticed some vines that I think are grape not making any grapes. Well, regardless of species of grapevine, all grapes are going to require pollination in order to make grapes. So some grapes will have male and female flowers that need to be pollinated. Some grapes will have perfect flowers, which means that they have male and female parts in the flower, but even that requires pollination. So it's possible that you're seeing a grapevine that hasn't been pollinated, and that's why it's not making grapes. Another option is a very common grape around this part of East Texas is called the muscadine grape. And with that particular species, only the female flowers will produce grapes. So it's possible that you're looking at male flowers, male plants, and that's why they're not producing grapes. So those are 2 options for why you're seeing no grapes on a grapevine. And then the second question from John is, it's a long one, so bear with me. It says, I found this plant on the beach in Galveston that I am totally confused as to what it is. It might be Heterotheca subaxillaris, which common name for that is camphor weed, or Jacksonia philocephala, which the common name for that is camphor daisy. So we have camphor weed or camphor daisy, or neither. Is there any easy way of telling these 2 species apart? On a side note, I found a completely intact and very heavy coconut that washed up on the beach in Galveston last week. Thank you for helping us. Well, thank you for submitting your questions. So John submitted some photos with his question, and if you want to check out those photos, they are in the comments section of our event page where most people are submitting their questions, and that's where he submitted the photos of the plant that he saw. So I did a little bit of research on this because neither of those two plants are ones that I immediately know the difference between them. But based on what I've seen and based on your photos, I do tend towards Ray Jacksonia phylocephala, which is the camphor daisy. But I stopped short of making a definitive ID because these two flowers are both in the aster family, also known as the daisy family, and that is the second biggest family of flowers after Fabaceae, which is peas and legumes. So it is a huge, huge family. There are a lot of members of it, but we'll talk a little bit how you can tell the difference between camphor weed and camphor daisy. So the leaves that you sent me look a little bit thicker, almost a little bit more succulent-like, and that reminds me a little bit more of Ray Jacksonia or the camphor daisy. And also, you can tell these species when they're adults, you can tell them apart pretty easily by their height. So camphor weed can get up to 6 feet in height. It can be pretty robust. And Ray Jacksonia, the camphor daisy, only maxes out at like 2 to 3 feet. And based off of your pictures, it looked like the plant was a little bit closer to the ground. So those are a couple of things that right away tell me it tends towards Ray Jacksonia. Also, the habitat that you sent me of it being on a sand dune, it looked like it was on a sand dune. You said it was in Galveston. Ray Jacksonia really loves those upper sand dunes and those like coastal habitats on dry sand. So that also fits for me too. So that's my educated recommendation of that ID. You can always check out botany books, botany keys, if you want to get really specific and, get yourself a hand lens and get in there and see what the plant is. But I hope that points you in the right direction and is a little bit helpful on your journey. So thank you for submitting your questions. Okay, I wanted to spend some time this week to talk about a really cool project that is going to be happening in the Houston area this weekend. It is a citizen science project, and it's not this weekend, it's actually tomorrow, which is Friday, and it's going to be happening all throughout the city. So the Houston Advanced Research Center is partnering with Harris County Public Health and the Nature Conservancy to produce a heat map of the city. And that's going to be done by citizen scientists collecting heat data on different routes throughout the city of Houston. Now, what's going to be done with that data is it's going to help elucidate areas that are most impacted by things like the urban heat island effect and are most vulnerable to predicted climate change and need some cool urban cooling interventions, whether that come in the form of tree plantings, could come in the form of nature-based infrastructure, it could come in the form of conserved green spaces. This is going to highlight those areas of the cities that are most vulnerable to overheating and need some interventions from our scientists and policymakers to make it a more livable part of the city. So this is happening August 7th. There's never a better time or hotter time of year to be collecting this data. And you better believe that Bayou Land Conservancy is going to have a team on the ground. So myself, our board chair, Lisa Lynn, and our gala committee chair, Aaron Valley, are going to be headed out to our section tomorrow. We got assigned to Baytown. So if you see an orange Subaru with a weird little gizmo hanging out of its window, that's going to be my car. Be sure to give us a wave. And we are going to be collecting temperature and humidity data that's going to help map the heat that's coming through in that area of the city. And then all of that data is going to be collected, analyzed, and we'll create an urban heat map, which will be a really, really unique tool. Houston is, I think, one of 13 cities that are participating in this 2020 campaign. So it's an awesome initiative. Very grateful to the organizers and different partners for putting on this event. And I'm excited to be a part of the community science that's going to be happening in the city tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. All right, that is it for this week, guys. Stay cool, stay hydrated. Remember that you can submit your questions to Ask an Ecologist by sending an email to info@bayouland.org. You can leave a comment on our Facebook page, and we'll see you next time for more ecology. Bye-bye.